I don't disagree with everything Pearl says, but I feel like Pearl is someone who, I mean, I want to hear your thoughts on this. I feel like you kind of enrage bait people with your posts because you'll post something really like a super hot take on Twitter, and then like you'll make a video about it, and the video in turn is a lot more nuanced, a lot more, I guess, rational. So sometimes I feel like I'm struggling to see like what your actual views are versus maybe what gets the most traction on X. So I'm excited for this to have a conversation about it. But I guess the role of women in society is, you know, to be mothers, to be wives, to support their families. How exactly that looks is going to differ from people to people. That's one of the reasons why I don't necessarily associate with the trad movement. I feel like trad refers to specifically almost the glamorization and in some ways fetishization of maybe like rural 1850s middle America, at least on like what I see on TikTok. Whereas, you know, I'm just a mom who works part-time from home and is basically trying to do whatever I can to help support my family.
Well, I would say there's character limits on X. So, I mean, you're not going to get a full opinion with like, I don't know, is it 60 characters? But I don't know, what tweets are you talking about? And I have like 18,000, so I don't know.
Well, we actually, like, I wanted to be specific here because I did pull some of the ones up. I sent them to you. I didn't want to like ambush you or surprise you or anything like that. Let's see.
And the role of women in society, sorry, I was thinking what the second question was. Well, I think it depends, like, what do we want it to be or what is it now?
Right.
And I think right now it's like, we're not really doing much. We're not really having kids. We're not really contributing to the economy when you look at output. So it's like, what do we want it to be or what is it? Because I wouldn't say women are doing what you described now.
Okay, well, one of the things that, like, I spoke recently actually with Rachel's husband, Andrew, and one of the tweets that I mentioned that I thought was kind of strange coming from you was that basically you said evil comes from women. You know, Andrew, in his interpretation, he made a very rational, very nuanced, actually, this is what she means. Is it not true that there is a lower moral bar for women, blah, blah, blah. And it, like, Andrew's smart guy. It made a lot of sense. That's not what the tweet was. And kind of funnily enough, you tweeted out later to clarify, Lauren, that yes, evil does come from women.
Yeah, well, because I would just look at every problem in society. It all comes from women.
To be fair, I just realized this the other day, but did you know that Hitler was made by a woman? That proves it.
Well, it's like you look at the homeless. Most of them come from single mother homes. You look at school shooters. Most of them come from single mother homes. You look at criminals, rapists. Most of them come from single mother homes. You look at what happens when women get power. So when men get power, they build societies. They do awesome things. When women get power, we're just not very good with it.
I just brought up Hitler. I mean, I kind of feel like there's a lot of bad dudes, you know?
Well, yeah, but there's also bad queens, right? If you look at queens the last 500 years, women are more likely to wage war. Women are way more violent with power, and we see that in society. Look at what women are doing in the court system today. And what is more evil than breaking up a family? And women do that all the time. Yeah. So yeah, I would say most problems in society come from women.
So that's interesting because I watched your conversation with Michael Knowles, which I thought was really interesting. And in it, you were very adamant that people need to take responsibility for their own actions. So when it relates to women, it's not really an excuse to say, oh, well, feminism brainwashed me. You still made the decision to sleep around. You still made the decision to get an abortion.
I think if you get an abortion, you're responsible.
Okay.
Right?
Shouldn't we have that same standard when it comes to the rapists, the men? You made a decision, you're responsible. It's not really like, oh, but my single mother. Like many people have.
And they are responsible. They go to jail for it. But you have to look at, there's significant differences between single mother and single father homes. And I can't help but notice that all of the men that seem to lack morals, they were raised by a woman.
Right. But is the answer then that evil comes from women? We are kind of leaving out the fact that, yeah, a man actually left the parent or his family in that situation.
Well,
there are some situations where a woman doesn't want the man there.
But most of the time, men don't leave. Women are the ones that overwhelmingly leave. And if you really dig it, if you actually do the work and interview men that are the known to be like deadbeat dads, most of the deadbeat dads don't really exist.
I mean,
They're exceptions. They're not the rule.
So-
and if you actually do the work and interview these guys, there's men that have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars fighting for their kids. And unfortunately, we're in a society where women can claim abuse. You know, they can say he emotionally abused me and not see his kid for years.
What's real quick, what's the stat? I know that there's stats on women initiating divorce more, but how do we say that, fatherlessness is predominantly driven by women? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, because women are choosing to leave, and the number one reason is irreconcilable differences.
But that's when you're talking about single mothers who are a result of divorce. If we're looking at single mothers who were never actually married, it's a very different group of people.
But the whole point is women have all the power here. We have a million choice. You get to choose whether or not you get pregnant. Abortion's legal. So we are 100% in control of who's born. So there is zero excuse to make a kid with a guy that's not going to stick around. Zero excuse. None.
I mean, I would also say
zero.
there's zero excuse for a guy to not stick around.
Well, but the issue you're getting is
like, because you're basically saying, but what about the women though? When we're talking about the man
but
leaving?
The difference is men cannot opt out of fatherhood. Women can opt out of motherhood.
And I think we would both agree that you should not be able to opt out of motherhood.
But
right?
we can. And it's
that
not
shouldn't be like
my
that.
point, but should, whatever. Like abortion's legal. It's here to stay, unfortunately. I don't say this because I'm happy about it, but I mean, in the UK, they're introducing a law where they want to make it legal up to birth. So abortion is legal. And right now, men are not able to opt out of fatherhood. Only women are.
Only socially, not physically. Women in the United States overwhelmingly have the right to abort.
Correct.
Or are allowed to abort. Men don't have any say whatsoever. But socially, I looked it up it says, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, 20.2% of fathers, about 7 million, are absent dads. They don't live with their minor children. So
right, but why?
Right. So this stat doesn't literally mean that 20% of fathers are like getting up and saying, later, kid, I'm going to buy scratchers, and then disappearing. But my point was just that of this, you have men who are like, okay, you're having a kid, I'm leaving, you'll never see me again.
Well, but you don't understand the circumstances, because a lot of times women make men dads that don't want to be. They're like, this is something casual. This is, situationships are really common. They know that man will never commit to them, and yet they still make the choice to have his kid. I think in those situations, if we can legally opt out of motherhood, they should be able to legally opt out of fatherhood. We have all the power now. Don't make a kid with someone that doesn't want to be a father.
I see. You're saying
I think that applies equally to, and this is why I don't advocate for promiscuity. Don't sleep with someone that you are not prepared to have a child with.
But what's happening?
Is what
that's like, this isn't a dream world. This isn't like Make-A-Wish, society promiscuity is going to go, it's not. So I'm talking about what's happening. Go ahead.
Are you saying that a woman who sleeps, like, let's say a woman, we'll start light. She sleeps with a guy, gets pregnant, and then realizes this guy will leave her, doesn't want to be a dad.
Yeah.
You're saying she should get an abortion?
I'm not saying should or shouldn't. I'm saying women have the choice to, right now. Men do not have the choice to opt out of fatherhood. Should or shouldn't, it's almost like, okay, I mean, this is where I get frustrated with conservatives. It doesn't matter what I say. Women are going to abort their kids. It's not going to become illegal. So if we're in a society where we can legally not be mothers, if we don't want, why can't men legally not be fathers?
I guess